From the Great Basin to the Rockies to the four corners of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, this is KMMU Main Street Media Utah coming to you live. You can find us on Rumble, YouTube, X, and our website, kmmu.org. Please join our host, Goud Maragani, for the Goud Crowd, the only radio broadcast good enough to be monitored by Utah's State Bureau of Investigation. Take it away, Goud.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Goud Crowd. Okay. We have a pretty hot show today. We have a lot of things going on. First, I'll do a little introduction, and then we are going to have calls. We did this a few weeks ago before the Salt Lake County GOP convention, where we had people running for the state central committee and various leadership positions call in to talk to you, those of you who are delegates, about why you should vote for them. Well, today we are going to have a whole host of people running for leadership positions and state central committee positions from Davis and Weber County. Both of those counties have their GOP conventions on on Saturday at the same time. I think at the same time. And anyway, they're going to come on. They're going to talk to you about why you should vote for them, what their vision is, what's their top priority. These will be pretty quick hits, but I just wanted to make sure that we opened up that opportunity for them because I think people who went to the Salt Lake County GOP convention found it helpful. If you are listening and you have a question that you want to be asked, you should feel free to comment. If you want to comment on social media or comment, if you're watching on YouTube, you can put a comment. I can see those comments. They'll actually show up on the side here. And I'll just say, I will ask the question as long as the comment is appropriate. So, got to be topical and not offensive. I'm not looking to offend people unnecessarily. I mean, if you have a tough question, I don't mind that, but let's not get, I hate your clothes or you're ugly or something like that. So before we keep going, let's make sure to note that yesterday, I think, was International Asexuality Day. So I want to wish all of you who celebrate Happy International Asexuality Day. And you probably know some people like this. If you do know anyone who's asexual, they're probably extremely unhappy. And so I would tell you to suggest to them to go to the doctor, because if you are asexual, there is something wrong with you. You should not celebrate it. You should go to the doctor and find out what's wrong with you so you can get it fixed. So anyway, that's the big liberal push now, is to hype asexuality as the latest thing. I think you probably saw a lot of these people at the protest on Saturday. I saw their photos and I thought, man, those are some really unhappy looking people, probably asexual. I find that typically, if you're asexual, you're not satisfied in life. You're missing out on some stuff that adults need to be happy. And probably you're showing up at leftist protests all upset about something else, because really, at the end of the day, you just aren't getting any. Anyway, okay, so let's see also. So, just as an aside here, I don't know if you guys have seen how they brought this dire wolf back from extinction. And it's like super cute. I mean, super, super cute. But I was thinking about this and I was like, I know that I've seen multiple movies about this called Jurassic Park. I love those movies. But I do wonder, and then I thought, like, do you think they'll create a dinosaur at some point? And I thought to myself, I think that they will, right? I mean, these are people that created a virus to, kill people. And they created a vaccine that didn't work. And I think they knew it didn't work. And so the question, look how cute those things are. Who does not want a dire wolf? But then I thought to myself, well, let's say they created a Jurassic Park. Would I want to go? And I realized I would totally go. I would totally go and check it out. And I realized that, those movies don't end well. But I feel like there were a bunch of people that went to Jurassic Park before the movie happened and all the bad events. And so why wouldn't I want to go and check it out? How do you guys feel about it? If you have thoughts on whether you go to Jurassic Park, feel free to share them. Oh, okay. The producer says it's kind of cool, but I'm not sure it is such a good idea. They're working on a woolly mammoth too. I don't even what would you do with that? That's massive. Okay, so that's kind of like a little aside, but I do wonder, I would totally, like I said, if Jurassic Park is ever created in my lifetime, I will totally go. I want to see a dinosaur. I totally understand that that may be my last trip, if the movie happens while I'm there, but maybe it's worth it. Go out with a bang or in some dinosaur's mouth. Okay. Then I just wanted to do a quick, there's an event coming up on Thursday. Hold on. Someone asked me to publicize this. The woman who is the big data Republican actually lives here in Utah, and she's having an event on Thursday in Layton. So this actually sounds like it'll be a really cool event. She's a very intelligent woman who has done a lot of really good work, exposing corruption, exposing kind of all the money laundering that's going on in our government and stuff like that. So like she says here, billions of dollars are spent on government grants, charities, and other organizations every year. Have you ever wondered where the money is awarded or where it ends up? Well, those are very good questions. I think we've got a really good picture of where this is all going. But you can go and hear from her. I think this would be a really great opportunity. And she's going to connect the dots between government grants, charities, and drawing connections to expose where the money flows. So this should be a really great presentation. It's 6:30 p.m. on Thursday at the Faith Baptist Church in Layton. So check that out. Then let's see. The other thing I want to talk about are the stock markets, right? So, you could, I think I'll just say this. I actually have, I'd say a decent amount of stock, because when the last big financial crisis happened, so this was 2008, I actually worked at a law firm at the time. And I had started probably just before the markets crashed, or maybe just after. I had already had the job. And so I got into this position where I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. And at the time, I think that salary at the time would not be considered as big of a deal today. Because I was listening somewhere, someone told me how much her daughter is making at a law firm, at a major law firm, as a summer associate. And it's 50% more than I made as a fifth-year associate. So clearly, inflation has impacted both prices and the salaries that these law firms have to pay. But I thought it was, but my point is this. So the markets crashed. I was working at this law firm. I was making a lot of money, but I didn't have any time, because basically at a law firm, they work you to the bone. And so I just took the money I was making and I invested it into the stock market. And I didn't panic. I just was like, okay. And I already had a little bit of money by then because I was pretty frugal. But this kind of was it. I would turbocharge. I would just keep buying stocks, right? It paid off in the long run. And so I guess my advice to people is, number one is, if you don't need to look at your stock portfolio when things are going crazy, don't look at it. What's the point? If your normal people, if you're investing in the stock market, it should be for long-term investments, I think, and not for betting on ups and downs, because that's actually really hard to do. And the people that do that, they do that full time and they're experts at it. So you're going to have trouble competing against them because they have so much more information than you do, including probably, I think, a lot of insider information, some of which they get from our elected officials and their family members. So, they're in a very different position than you and I are. It's not even worth trying to compete against them. So my recommendation would be, if you have stock, and you're worried about it, just don't look at your portfolio and let it be, unless there's some reason you need to pull money from it. Just sit and wait. Don't panic sell. That'll be your mistake. People who panic sell lose tons of money, and there's no reason to do that because right now they're paper losses. But the stock market, I think, will come back, and it'll come back bigger and better because what Trump is setting up is something that will cause the reindustrialization or reshoring in America and cause really great growth of people that make things, and we'll be making things again. And that will bring us a much brighter future because a nation that does not make things right now also will not be innovating those things for the next products. And it hurts your national security as well. Let's see. Oh, Mr. Producer, what do you say? Oh, okay. So here you go. It's a good story. There's always a silver lining. After the housing market crashed, I bought a single family home in Bakersfield, California. Yeah, bleh is right. If you've ever been to Bakersfield, for $48,000. I parlayed that into 5 houses and 2 condos, all purchased from foreclosure. Wow. Okay, so there you go. Look, another great example. So also, like, I don't know if the housing market is going to fall or not. No, I'll be honest. I do think that housing prices need to fall because the reality is that young people are not able to afford homes. So either interest rates have to drop a lot or housing prices have to fall. And so far, neither. I think interest rates have dropped some, but housing prices haven't fallen yet. But there does need to be a fall. I say this, it totally hurts me because obviously I have a house. But I do think everything needs to be recalibrated. It all got inflated during COVID when they shut down the private economy, which I am still worked up about and upset about. And I feel like we're never going to get any sort of accountability from the people who did it. Electing Trump for his second term is kind of beginning to hold people accountable, but there's a lot of people in Utah who were involved in shutting down small businesses and destroying people's lives who got reelected or are still in office. And it's my view that every single person, and I mean every single one, who was involved in masking children, shutting down businesses, destroying people's lives, they should be out of office. And frankly, if there was any wrongdoing, they should be prosecuted. I'll just give you an example. Let's see here. So, for example, masking children was never necessary. And so you would know that if you had taken the time of reading the studies that were out at that point in time, there's really no need for anyone to wear a mask because, a virus is actually smaller than a mask. And really, at the end of the day, what you do is you start breathing in your own gross air. So if you get sick, you actually are breathing it in and making everything worse for yourself. So, and there were studies showing this at the time when they were trying to do mandatory masking. Now, the worst hit were children who were being put into schools and then masked all day so they couldn't concentrate. Just think about how uncomfortable that is for a child. I mean, they were doing it for children, all children that were 2 or older. I mean, people were doing it on their toddlers. I don't have kids, but I cannot imagine telling a child to wear a mask. I think it's horrible. And elected officials, though, were pushing that. So, for example, Amy Winder Newton is a big one. She pushed it. She promoted it. And had she spent 5 minutes doing some research and not just going with whatever the latest thing was, she would have figured that out. I think she should be out of office. But I think it's also reflective of the fact that she's just a product of nepotism, not a bright person, a very nasty person, but also not a good elected official because she didn't actually do any independent research. The vaccine, another example. Lieutenant Governor Henderson and Governor Cox both are on the record as having told employers to make it mandatory for their employees to take the vaccine. And I don't think that they read anything about it to check to make sure that it was safe and effective. And I know a lot of people took it in Utah. I did not. But that's because I read about it and I knew that it wasn't a good thing. I actually called all my family up and I called friends up and told them not to take it because I didn't think it was safe and I thought it was dangerous. No, they didn't listen to me. I have one friend that listened. She was adamant, and she listened. So I give her props. She totally listened to me. And I'm glad she did, because I think it would have been bad for her. But, like my parents didn't listen to me, although they told me more recently that they thought I was right. I didn't want to be right, just so that's clear. I would rather have been wrong, but I think I'm right as to what it was. But they were wrong from the beginning. And they were in a position where they could have demanded more information before they went and told employers, you need to force the vaccine on people, and they didn't do it. They didn't do that basic due diligence. They should not be in office. They shouldn't be anywhere near any public offices, because when they were tested, they failed. They 100% failed. They failed you. They failed the people, and they did it in a way that's going to cause long-term damage. I can't tell you, I hear more and more people now talking about needing to do IVF. Well, if you read about the vaccine, one of the things that it impacts people's fertility. And so those of you who that's happened to, if you took the vaccine because you listened to them and you trusted these people, if you're having fertility issues, you should go back to them, ask them about it. Did you read about the dangers of the vaccine before you told my employer to force me to take it? That's the question. And what you're going to get from both of them is no, they didn't. And that's why I think they should be out of office. There needs to be accountability for what happened during COVID. But that's another example of a market crash where you could have either panicked when it happened, because you remember in 2020 when they did the whole lockdowns, the markets collapsed, but then they came back. But they came back because of free money. I mean, that's basically what it was. But at the same time, had you sold after the collapse, you would have lost money. But if you just held on to it, it would just grew. So my basic advice to everybody is patience, or stay frosty. No need to panic. I think things are going to be great in the long run. Never bet against America. And in fact, let me show you a little video. Mr. Producer, when we get our first call, let me know. Yeah, Mr. Producer agrees, so they will all work out. I'll show you the attitude of our typical, I believe this is your typical Trump voter. Before I play this, I'm also going to tell you that I like this video because this is eye candy. If it ever shows up. I'll type, I've been complaining about my computer. It is really slow today. It's getting on my nerves slow. Okay, hold on. I can't. Okay. It's a very short video, so I'll just play it for you. I'm hoping this will work. Okay, let's see here. I think this is in Tampa.
They go into effect today. What do you think about the Trump tariffs?
Doesn't affect me.
Why not?
I'm pro-Trump, but don't affect me.
Well, what do you think about it? Tell me your opinion on how he's going about it. What do you think?
Dominance, baby. Greatest country in the world.
They go into.
See, that is the attitude you should have. And actually, you can see it in the news too. If you look, they keep announcing that, oh, we got a call. You can put them through. But they keep announcing all these different countries now they want to negotiate. They're basically going to capitulate because they shouldn't have tariffs. If you want to have tariffs, they should be reciprocal, meaning they match, and that's about it. So, okay, who do we have?
You have Sophie. Sophie, go ahead.
Hello, Goud. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Sophie?
Great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. Why don't you tell everyone, tell them your full name, and then what you're running for and in which county?
Okay. Sophie Anderson, and I'm running for SCC, State Central Committee, pretty much the governing body of Utah's GOP, in Davis County.
Okay. And why should delegates vote for you?
Well, about 3 years ago, my family and I moved from Salt Lake County, and I was horrified by the infiltration of our party by Democrats and leftists and all kinds of things under the sun in our Salt Lake County GOP. And I do not want that to happen in Davis County. I want Davis County to have people representing them that adhere to the party's platform, that protect and honor and defend the caucus convention system. And I think most of all, I want Davis County and the entire state of Utah to have verifiable and transparent elections.
Okay. I've actually noticed in the data that southern Davis County, so Bountiful and North Salt Lake, that area is turning a little bit more blue. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or ideas about how to stop that from spreading into Davis County?
I do. So we're right. We're in Bountiful. And of course, when we moved, I was just like, we're in heaven. Like, we're in heaven. When you compare coming from, I call it Sodom and Gomorrah, where we lived. It's right in the heart of Salt Lake. And I just thought we had found the greatest place, and it still is the greatest place. But I am noticing those type of things. Certain flags being flown, certain things being taught to my children in school. And I truly believe people becoming engaged is the only way we can take this back and not turn blue. Because otherwise, the woke mob they are very organized, and they are very energized and passionate. And if conservatives like you and I do not get involved, we will be blue.
Yeah. Do you have an example of how you'll get people more engaged?
Yeah, I think so. My number one thing was when the scamdemic came down in Salt Lake, I was just out of my mind, like, what is happening? And that's when I learned about, and I feel embarrassed to say this, I should have known it before, but I didn't. I learned what a delegate was, what a county delegate was, what a state delegate was. And I was like, I have to be one of those. I have to figure out how, where to go and when to go. And so I would just, I would tell people, please find out when, it's not until next year, but when you can run to be a county or state delegate so that you have a voice in our party. I think that's a great first step. And run for something, run for anything, like school board you need good people. That's the problem.
Okay. Well, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter as Sophie Anderson and Facebook as Sophie Anderson. And Goud, can I say the last name?
Of course, yeah. I don't know what that music is. Is that you?
I don't either. It's not on my end.
Okay, keep going.
Probably my greatest fear is our sanctuary state status and how we're operating as a sanctuary state. I plan, if I'm elected to the SCC, to make sure that these legislators and our GOP leadership, like, they have to be held accountable for all of these policies and laws that are coming down, incentivizing illegal aliens to come and reside and work and live and go to school in Utah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think a lot of people are going to support that. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, and good luck on Saturday.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Goud. Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, I believe we now have Jennifer Garner on. I still have no idea what that music was. That was so mysterious. Mr. Producer.
No, it's not mysterious, Goud. I just pushed the wrong button. And I'm going, where's the music coming from? And fair enough, it was me.
Okay.
Okay, let me get Jennifer for you. Hang on.
Okay. While we're doing that, I'll just say I like Sophie a lot. So, she was also very involved in a lot of grandma requests and kind of trying to improve government transparency in our state. So I think she'll be a really good asset on the state central committee. And as we go through and talk to people, if I have insights, I'll give them to you. You guys can take them or leave them. But I think that the work she did on grandma requests is very invaluable to helping us understand our election system better and also understand the problems with our grandma process and the need for reforms to make our government more transparent. Okay, let's see if we got Jen Garner on. It's very quiet. I can keep talking. There was something else that Sophie said that kind of struck me. It was the point about learning what a county and a state delegate was. I did not know what those things were either until after the 2020 election. I was listening to War Room with Steve Bannon. He told people to go become a precinct chair, and that's how I started to get involved. Until then, I had no idea how the parties were really structured. Do we have her on, Mr. Producer?
Yes, we do. Jennifer, go ahead. Say hello to Goud.
Hi, this is Jennifer from Davis County.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Goud?
I'm good. Okay, so tell everyone your first and last name, what you're running for, and I guess you just said Davis County, so what are you running for?
So Jennifer Garner, running for State Central Committee.
Okay, and what is your top priority if you are reelected to the State Central Committee?
Transparency. I was really shocked this last term to see how not transparent our voter rolls are, the signature path, all of those things. And so I think we really need to create better bylaws that open up the windows to that. For instance, finding out that 40% of our voters have private or withheld status, and it's not visible to the party. That's pretty concerning. I did a grandma request as a member of the governing body of the Republican Party, and we were not allowed to see it. The other part is we also weren't given the access to the signatures for Governor Cox or any of them actually. And as a candidate wanting the Republican R next to their name, those are things that should be visible to the party.
Yeah, you talked about the grandma request that you made. Was that a grandma request for the list of people that signed the signature petitions, or was it for the voter registration records?
It was for the people who signed.
Okay. Okay, and so why do you think delegates should vote to keep you on the State Central Committee?
Well, I've done my homework. I have done the research to figure out where things went wrong. I've talked to legislators about how things went wrong. I'm not afraid to ask for accountability from our legislators. That should not offend a legislator. They should be seeking more ways to at least look like they're transparent and be representative of the people. And so I've tried to be as diplomatic as I can. I've learned so much this last term, and I'd just like to get back on and make a difference this next term.
Okay. We just have to move these around quick because I'd like to talk to you more, but where can people find you?
JenGarner.com.
Okay. Oh, do you have an email too, or where they can email you?
Yep, that's helpmejen@yahoo.com.
It's an awesome email. Okay, Jen. Well, good luck. Good luck on winning. Good luck on the re-election bid, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks, Goud. We'll see you soon.
Yep. Okay, so I'll just say this: I served on the State Central Committee with Jen this last term, so my term is up soon, maybe the next month or so. And I'll just say I think you should reelect her. She is probably one of the biggest assets on the State Central Committee, especially if you're a grassroots person. She really is a voice for the grassroots. She does her homework. She is passionate. She's persistent, and she'll keep on pushing people to be able to try to accomplish the goals she's trying to accomplish. So I think you should vote. So far, everyone listening to you guys should vote for them. Okay, Mr. Producer, you can put Tina on. I think next we have Tina Horlacher.
Tina's here. Go ahead, Tina. Say hello.
Hi there. I'm right here.
Okay. Hey, Tina, how are you? So what are you running for and in which county?
Hi, Goud. So I am running for State Central Committee in Davis County. This will be my 5th term.
Okay. Why should delegates vote for you?
Well, I was the chair of the Davis County Republican Party about 8 years ago. And at that time was my first term on the State Central Committee. We were really successful in moving the needle with SB 54 and almost took care of it in my 2nd term with Derek Brown. But it's a long story. We've been working really hard. We have not been successful on the State Central Committee because we've had a chair that has roadblocked us every single time. And this time I'm super excited because we have an opportunity to vote for a chair that will not roadblock us. And I believe we can find a solution within the party to fix the problems with SB 54 and run our own primaries. Those are my all-out priorities, is to find a solution within the party, meaning a bylaw that says if you gather signatures, you don't get an R by your name, and then we're going to run our own primaries. And everybody's saying, oh, if we elect Phil Lyman, we are not going. The legislators are going to boycott the party. We're not going to be able to fundraise, and they'll probably try that. That a lot of our elected officials boycotted the Lincoln Day dinner up in Davis County because they're not happy because we're not giving money to signature gathering candidates. So, I don't think when someone throws a fit, we should give them their way.
Okay, I like that. Just so people are listening, SB 54 is a law that allows candidates to collect signatures to be able to circumvent the convention process. So it actually completely undermines the caucus convention.
Right. So go ahead, Gab.
So it sounds like that's is that going to be your top priority if you're reelected to the SEC?
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing this long enough to know we can talk about, we got to prove caucus and convention. I'm all about that. I'm all about educating the delegates, using the precincts chair in a much higher capacity than they're currently used. I'm all about that stuff, and all of that can happen. But the number one priority, so we never have to go what we went through this last election cycle with the governor's race and the senator's race and another race for, I think it was state school board. The convention nominees did not get to the general ballot. That is not okay. We have to fix that problem. And I mean, I could just go on and on, but nothing will get fixed. We just had a legislative session where even after everything that happened with that election, our elected officials were totally disinterested in fixing the problems with our elections. The House would have a good bill, and then it would go to the Senate, and it would die. And I hear a lot of people say, well, those good bills go to the Senate to die. Well, that might be true, but I don't know if I completely believe that. I think there might be a little bit of collusion that's going on there because senators are in there for a lot longer than House
members and you know, they want to have a better name. The senators, people forget what they do. But the only way we are going to find and elect people to replace those senators who are so disinterested in what is right for Utah and what is right for our citizens is to be able to control our own elections. It's the only answer. And I believe we can do it. I'm not worried about fundraising. I don't think it's going to be as expensive as what they say. I think it's totally doable. It'll be a lot of work. We're going to have to ask the grassroots to step up. But that is my priority for this next term.
Okay. Well, where can people find you?
Well, they can call me. They can call me 801-498-0964.
Okay. Well, good luck on Saturday. And I hope I'll hear from you soon.
Thank you, Goud. Thanks for letting me be on.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. It's another great candidate. And she's right, you know, with SB 54, this election showed the real problems with that law and the entire signature gathering process. And so, you know, I think you probably, like, two people just talked about this whole signature gathering thing. Hold on. Oh, speaking of long-term. Oh, we have a couple comments here. Mr. Producers, let me know when the next person calls in. So speaking of long-term investing, the Dow Jones Industrial Average very close to the exact same number as 1 year ago today. So in my humble opinion, there is no crash happening. Well, it's pretty accurate. And then Jennifer Garner, who just called, said the COVID funding all came with pushing mandates. The ESSER contracts, the CARE money, all of it. Yeah, I know. It's true. It's very true. COVID was a very evil thing. It was very much used to push things onto us that I don't think would have otherwise gotten approved. But it also it was eye-opening because for me at least, I don't think I realized how much people will just go along with just about anything if there's enough kind of propaganda and pressure to do certain things, right? So mask up, and then suddenly if you don't mask, you're evil. And it was amazing to me how many of my friends were just falling for it. The vaccine was the same thing. We went from you have to take this totally ineffective, unsafe vaccine, and then you turn around and you go, your friends are all like, oh, I want a vaccine mandate. I want you to show me that you're vaccinated. I'm like, yeah, we're not friends anymore. You don't get to know anything about my medical situation unless I want to share it voluntarily. So, okay, the other thing I was going to say, I was just talking about SB 54. So for those of you who don't know, it is unclear. At best, it is unclear. I don't think Governor Cox actually collected the requisite number of signatures to be able to be put onto our primary ballot. Okay. And so Michael Clara has actually done a fantastic job of documenting this through grandma requests. And I had met with him a couple of months ago where we were talking about this, and he was actually able to identify signature gatherers that he thought had broken the law. And those are signature gatherers that later on, maybe a month later, the Attorney General's office ended up charging with crimes like forgery. So by doing grammar requests and being meticulous about it, he was actually able to identify a lot of the issues with Governor Cox's signature petitions. He has a series of videos that he has actually done on this issue. And they want me to say, the opinions expressed are those of the host and do not reflect the views of KMMU. But I guess, that's true. Anyway, you should go check out Michael Clara's videos if you haven't. He does a very good job of going through this issue. And I think when you get down to it, I don't think Governor Cox actually collected 28,000 signatures like he was required to in order to get on that primary ballot. And so he should never have been on the primary ballot, and he should have lost at convention, and that should have been the end of his governorship. But what that showed is that because the lieutenant governor, who is his running mate, controls the process, she was able to. So she did what everyone that wants to cheat in elections does. They centralize processes, because when you do that, it's completely easier to cheat, right? And so I'll just give you examples of how this works. Mail-in voting is an example of changing the system to make it easier to be able to cheat. So, like we have an all-mail system here. How that changes things is the following. When you go in person to vote in your precinct, this is how they used to do it. You'd go to your precinct, they would count your votes at the precinct, and then they would report those numbers up to the county clerk's office. The county clerk then tabulates this, and they send it up to the lieutenant governor's office, but you have multiple points of failure and lots of people involved, making it very difficult to cheat. In that type of a system, you will still have areas where cheating will happen. Like you see this in big cities, especially run by Democrats. Democrats have a very high tendency or high probability of cheating. So Chicago, for example, I grew up in the Chicago area. Chicago was known for election cheating. In fact, they're still known for it. That's what they cheat. That is the bottom line. And I'm not sure that Salt Lake City is any different. So, but then when you switch from that type of a system to an all-mail system, you got rid of all the precincts. All counting and processing of ballots today happens in one office in the Salt Lake County Clerk's office. That's now you've taken multiple points of failure and you've made it a single point of failure, making it much easier to use the process to benefit your side. And so, I understand our system very deeply because I ran the Election Integrity Committee in 2021. And so probably outside of a county clerk, I probably have more knowledge than even the lieutenant governor about how our election system actually works. Our lieutenant governor is a total moron. She doesn't really know much, except repeating stupid talking points. But so I probably know more than her, but maybe a little bit less than the county clerks. And I can tell you the areas where the failures can happen are the following. One is at registration. The lieutenant governor's office does not actually verify citizenship. They don't have a way to do it. They claim they do, but I think it was early last year, I actually went back and forth with the lieutenant governor's office and kept on trying to get them to tell me how they verified citizenship. They said, we verify it by, if you write a social security number on your voter registration form, we go to the Social Security Administration and make sure that it's a valid number or something. But the problem is, the problem is citizens, legal immigrants, and illegal aliens, as we just learned, all get social security numbers. So I went back to them and I said, well, if you go to the Social Security Administration and you have a social security number, do you ask them if the person is a citizen? They would not answer the question. So I don't think they're not getting citizenship information that way. Then they also said, well, if you put a driver's license number down, then we go to the Utah DMV to check to make sure it's a legitimate driver's license. Again, problem is citizens and legal immigrants get the exact same driver's licenses. So the fact that someone has a legitimate driver's license does not mean that they are a citizen. So they have no way to verify citizenship. I suspect that if we ever get the full voter registration rolls, keep in mind, as Jen Garner said, 40% of the voter registration rolls in Utah are not available to the public. You cannot see them because people have been classified as private or withheld. Anybody can be private. All you have to do is mark a box on your voter registration form. And in fact, I bet you most people probably do that. Like, for example, I didn't realize this, but my own voter registration is private. And I think it was just, I probably just marked it when I registered to vote. It was before I knew all the stuff about the election system that I did that. And then the withheld is supposed to be for everybody who is military or anyone that's military, law enforcement. So under military, I could actually be withheld. Law enforcement or has a protective order, you have to apply to be withheld. But they did something where on May 12th, anyone who was classified as private on May 12th of 2020 was reclassified as withheld. So the private voter records, the parties and the candidates are supposed to have access to those. But for some reason, when candidates requested, for example, those signature lists, like I believe Natalie Clausen did, the lieutenant governor's office, even though she was a candidate, would not give her the private voter records. The withheld is not available to anybody except for government officials. And so we have this system where we can't even see all the people that are registered to vote. But my own suspicion is that if we start digging into this, if we ever see the full thing, that there will be legal and illegal aliens on those voter rolls. And frankly, if they don't want us to look at the voter rolls and they won't give them to us, then there's no basis for us to trust them. These aren't trustworthy people. In fact, they get up there and they lie all the time. Oh, yes. And the Mr. Producer says, don't forget dead people. Accurate. And then anytime you point out any problems with election systems, they'll come back and say, oh, well, that's just a small problem, Goud. Everything is perfect. We're the gold standard. And we're totally not. So that's one point of failure. That's your first point. Your second point of failure is signature verification. With mail ballots, the way that they verify your identity is that they compare the signature that you sign on the outside of your envelope to one of many signatures that they have in their records for you. That is not an objective form of ID. And what I mean by that is when I go and I vote in person, I always vote in person. And the reason is I have actually been deployed and had to vote by mail, and I find it to be the most unsatisfying and just lame way to vote. I think that's how losers vote. Ironically, more than 90% of Utah's voters use mail ballots. So I guess maybe that's not the way to put it, but whatever. Point is, I don't find it satisfying. I think it's actually like just lame. It's better to go. I prefer to go stand in line. I show them my ID. That is an objective form of ID. You can't, I show them my driver's license. They can see who I am. They can see the face on the driver's license, my face. They can see it's me. And then they can check me in and I can go vote. That's the way it should work. But with mail votes, they take that signature you sign, and then first they have like the signature you use on your voter registration form, but then they keep on building that record. So every single time you turn in there's different documents you turn in, they add it into the records. So they could have 10 signatures in there, and they just have to find one that they think it's similar to. It's a completely subjective way to check your ID. And so what you can expect to happen, in my point earlier about the centralization of the system, is you can hire people who are activists, which is, for example, what the Salt Lake County Clerk's Office does. If you go look at the people that they've hired, it's all Democrat activists. There used to be, I think, one Republican, and they basically chased her out and harassed her. So, but maybe there'll be some Republicans that go and apply now. Because I do think, to be fair about this, if you are a Republican, we need you to go and work in a place like the Salt Lake County Clerk's Office, right? Because that way you're helping to make our election system better. Let me just check my email real quick. But so you have this, so what you can do is you put in these activists, right? And then you just tell them like, hey, just keep on, just approve these signatures. And then you can just pass through signatures that don't match. And you end up with votes that shouldn't be there. And there's not a real way to challenge it because they don't really let you participate in that. So that's just how, that's the system. And the way it actually works though, is they'll take your envelope, they'll scan it into a machine, and the machine does the signature verification. If it cannot, and there's settings on the machine, so they can make it more strict or less strict. If you hear me out here. If you're a Democrat, you're probably going to make it less strict because you want signatures to pass through because most of the fraud is on their side. So you lower the strictness of it. You let more signatures pass through. Whatever the machine can't verify gets pushed to individuals who then do signature verification. Now, if you go to the office, you can watch them do this, but it's a total joke because they'll make you stand in Salt Lake County Clerk's Office. They'll put these pieces of tape and they'll have these very skinny lanes, but the lanes are so far away maybe if you're younger and you have better eyesight, you can see it. But, you know, I'm like almost 50. Even though I look young, but I have trouble seeing what they're doing on the computer screens because it's too small. And some of this was done because of COVID. But really, I think at the end of the day, it's to make it less transparent, right? You can't see it. That's the end result. So that's your second. That's another point of failure, right? You pass through all these signatures. There's no way we can't go and check it because they'll say, oh, I think then it becomes like it's private. Like if you grandma it, they won't show it to you. They'll just say, oh, well, you can just come and look at it while we do it. There's not a real process for challenging if they match say a signature matches and you disagree. You can just take notes on this type of stuff. So we've essentially something that should be very objective and very simple. And that is that if you go, you can show your ID. It's very simple, right? If your ID doesn't match you, they just reject you. But now they can't do that. Hold on. You okay? Sorry, I'm a big dog. Sounded like he threw up or something, but he looks okay. You okay, Ansel? Okay. Okay, I think he's fine. Okay, and then the third point of contact is ballot. Actually, there's maybe 4 points. So third point of contact is ballot duplication. This is when this would apply for only mail ballots, right? So, and however you turn them in. Those ballots, when they come to the clerk's office, for example, sometimes they'll have a machine. I saw this happen once, a machine that opens the envelope. So it like cuts the envelope and then opens it like this. And then the person pulls out the ballot and they pull out the ballot like this manually. In one time I saw that the machine tore the ballot. Now, when that happens, they have to duplicate the ballot. And what that means is they have to now take the ballot, like your ballot that's ripped, right? So it's like this. And then they're like, oh, we can't stick this into our scanner. Can you see that? Well, it's a ripped piece of paper. And they'll take it onto a blank ballot and they should transcribe it exactly as they see it. But you can imagine here's another point of potential failure because they can just change a vote when they do that. And when you say this, they got all upset, but that's the reality of it. They can change a vote. Now they'll allow you to do poll watching, but remember in Salt Lake County, in Utah in general, they're processing ballots and counting them for basically a month on end. So because we do mail voting, we now have a month. It takes them a month to process these ballots, and no one that I know has a month to go and sit in the clerk's office and be able to figure out or watch this, right? Like everybody has jobs, you have to make money. Not the people in the clerk's office, they're making money doing this, but they expect people to volunteer for a month on end. Like, who has time to do that? That's ridiculous. And that's a disadvantage of a mail system, because if you do it in person, you're not taking all that time. Like, you don't need to do signature verification. You don't need to do ballot duplication, or the fourth one is adjudication. So mail voting actually makes it centralizes the system, makes it complicated, unnecessarily so, and increases the points of failure where cheating can happen. And by the way, I think that's the whole point of it. That's exactly why they do it. Now, the fourth point of failure is ballot adjudication. And this is if there's a mark that's unclear on your ballot, then hold on. They verify your signature. Sorry, I'm trying to go back a little bit here. Let's say, now they say, okay, so this is who Goud has submitted his ballot. Oh, and Mr. Producer's right. It may not even be cheating. It's just that mistakes are made. But actually, I think it opens it up for a lot more cheating. Harder to do. Again, like when you have lots of people doing it in your precincts or local levels, and it's decentralized, much harder to cheat. It's just harder because you have more people, more chances of someone being like, "Oh hell no, you're cheating," like. That's cheating. I'm not doing that. But like when you centralize it, just much higher possibilities of cheating, just because, again, you can stack your employment full of left-wing activists, as the Salt Lake County Clerk's Office has done. Most of those people, they have some good employees, but most of them are left-wing lunatics, really. Okay, so that last part, though, is adjudication. So it goes through the signature verification process. Let's say they verified your signature, however they did it. Then they say, okay, we can count this ballot. they take it and they scan it into a machine. The machine, if you do anything and mark your ballot incorrectly somehow, so like you use red pen, people draw pictures on it, they cross stuff out. I see this and I'm like, I can't even imagine thinking it's okay to like cross stuff out on your ballot and then fill in a different circle and turn it in. Why wouldn't you just ask for another ballot or just go vote in person at that point? Like throw out the ballot and go vote in person. But they do all that kind of stuff. And all that does is it pushes it into a separate category where it has to be adjudicated. So then a team of 2 in the clerk's office will look at it and they'll try to discern how you intended to vote. And basically what you should picture is hanging chads in Florida. That's essentially what this is. It's the digital version of that. And so they sit there and they're making their decisions. And, I'll say, like, I think most of the time it's probably pretty obvious, but there's all sorts of possibilities for cheating in that. They can change your vote. And when they do that, and so that's your 4th vulnerability. So by having a mail system, I think we've increased the possibilities of cheating just in the actual voting process itself. And then SB 54, as they showed in this last election cycle, actually made it so that people can cheat and get access to the GOP primary ballot. And, as someone that was on the state central committee, or I guess I'm still on it for until the new people take office, it was frustrating because the party didn't really do anything, or I don't know what they could do, but it just seemed like the party has to do more to protect its primary ballot, meaning we should not just be accepting that because the lieutenant governor says so, you collected the requisite number of signatures, as long as SB 54 is around. Because I agree with Tina, though, because I think the best goal would be to get rid of it. But at this point, if you can find a way to circumvent the whole SB 54 problem, that's even better. But until you can do that, right, you have to get control over giving people access to the primary ballot. And what that means is that you have to be able to see every single signature and be able to verify for yourself as a party that these were actually properly evaluated and that they really got the number of signatures that they were required to access your ballot. And if they didn't, you got to get rid of them. Like, bye-bye, see you later. But that's not what happened in this last election. And my impression of the response from the legislature was they were trying to make the government even less transparent than it already is. And I don't know, like, how is that helpful? Why should I go and vote in, do we have any callers, Mr. Producer? I'm just realizing, I wonder where's my phone? I hope no one's calling my phone. I'm gonna feel really bad. Let's see. Give me one. All right, no calls. Okay.
No callers, Goud.
Okay. Well, there's all these people scheduled.
I'm watching carefully.
Okay. Thanks. Keep tracking it. Okay.
Now, I have something to add, though, for you here, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is, even in California, although they've changed it, when we went to vote, we went to the local elementary school. They had on paper printouts of everybody. They would turn it over. You'd sign it and show them your ID, okay? Mm-hmm. And there was never a problem getting the voting was done by 10 o'clock that night. The polls closed at 8, and they counted them all. Yeah. Just because they counted in small batches, sent the information up to the county sent it up to the state, but I moved to Utah and I got a ballot in the mail, and I said, wait, I didn't request an absentee ballot. What the heck is this? I don't want to vote by mail. I mean, and my debate about it is, okay, I just got a big check in the mail, and I'm going to go pay people that I owe money to. I call them and I go, hey, I got your $1,000. Should I put it in an envelope and mail it to you? And they'll go, no. I'll come get it. I go, well, why is that? I don't trust the mail. That's my little anecdote about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's not how California is today, though, because I went with my
No,
dad.
they've made it so you don't even have. It's illegal for you to show ID. Okay.
Yeah.
So the lefties have taken over, and they call it voter suppression when you try to stop this nonsense. And I go, yes, I want to suppress the vote. I only want people voting who know what they're doing and who really have a big desire to go, not just drop something in the mail or have your ballot collected at the door and harvested. It's like, no, 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 no. This should be a difficult process because then you only get the people who are aware and serious about it voting. So,
yeah, that's not. No, that's I would think they think it's voter suppression. I think because if you check citizenship, for example, you're going to get rid of the illegal aliens and illegal immigrants.
yes,
and
it
they
is voter
overwhelmingly
suppression.
vote for Democrats. So like that's the whole point. I don't want them voting.
Indeed, it is voter suppression, but it's people who shouldn't be voting. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, but they like those people because they vote for them.
Yeah.
So
all right, I'll keep you posted about calls coming in. Okay, because I know you had a bunch of people. So
I know I did. Well, hopefully they'll call in. Anyway, yeah, the California thing is really different today. I went with my dad, and it was interesting because my dad had his ballot. They get mail ballots, but he turned it in because I was like, "You should turn in your ballot." So he actually took his mail ballot that they'd and my mom's too. We went down to the library and we went inside, and he tried to turn it. It was actually this is the only election integrity thing that they actually have in California. He tried to turn them both in. This woman had this bag on. You had to give it to her. And she was like, "Oh, you can't turn in two ballots. You have to sign the ballot that is not yours. You have to actually put your personal information to say that, like you collected it for them or something." I thought that was kind of interesting, but I think that's to stop ballot harvesting, right? And obviously they're married, so they can do that. But I mean, my dad could turn in my mom's ballot. But I thought that was interesting because California, I mean, no accountability in their elections at all. I don't think Utah is really much better. Lots of talk about how we're the gold standard, but it's just a cheap talking point. When you actually dig into it and delve into it, I wouldn't want anyone to follow Utah's election system. Like, what a wreck. It's based on blind trust of people that will blatantly lie to your face and have no qualms about it. So no thanks on that one. Okay, let's see what we got here. So that was a total tangent, by the way. I had no plans on talking about the election system. It was kind of interesting that I've been going back and forth with Lanny Chapman, the Salt Lake County clerk. And I'll tell you another thing that Utahns are really big on is if you criticize anyone, they'll be like, "Oh, Goud, you just have sour grapes because you lost against her." And I'm like, I don't have sour grapes. But I do care about the election system. I don't know why you would think that would change because, you spent 5 times what I did. You had George Soros fund you. You attacked me. You attacked my patriotism. While all you have ever done is being a government a bureaucrat. Went to one of the worst law schools in the country. Somehow got recruited by SimGill. There's a Soros connection there between Lanny Chapman being from Michigan, going to one of the worst law schools in the country, and then somehow getting recruited to the Salt Lake County DA's office, who people have said is backed by George Soros. So there's a connection there. We probably need to figure out what it is. But I don't have sour grapes for that. Like, it is what it is, No, it's no skin off my back. But I do care about the election system. So yes, I'm going to keep asking you questions. And yes, I'm going to keep pushing you. And yes, I'm going to try to make our election system better and more transparent. So she gave an interview. I know I talked about this before and I played it, where she said that 90% of her full-time employees are women. Okay. And she said it in a way that was supposed to be like, yes, queen, you go, girl. You only have female employees. Like, we're all supposed to be super impressed by that. But I went and I asked her, I was like, hey, this actually raises real concerns for me that you are discriminating against men, right? So can you give me everyone who's applied for jobs over the last 5 years and their sex so that I can see how you're evaluating these people? She would not give that to me, but I need to make a grammar request to the HR department for Salt Lake County to see if I can get the information. But then she said that she misspoke, right? She's like, no, I didn't mean 90% of my full-time employees are female. I meant 90% of my temporary staff that run elections are female. And I was like, okay, well, so now I have no basis to test any of this, right? Because she won't give me I also just asked her for a list of employees. She won't even give me a list of her employees. So I have no basis to see if 90% of the full-time staff, as she deliberately said in this interview, are female or not. Well, so what's interesting is, so I pushed her and I was like, okay, well, if that's true, have you gone back to the journalist and told her that you misspoke, right? And then she kept on ignoring me. But if anyone knows me, I'm very persistent, and I'll follow up on it. Sometimes it takes me a little while because I get caught up with other stuff, but I'll go back and I'll be like, hey, you still haven't answered my question. What did you do this thing? So it turns out she actually went back to the journalist and had them correct it. Here, I'll show you this. It's actually pretty funny. But now I've got to get a copy of her. Here, I need to get a copy of that employee list to see if this is even accurate. But here you go. So she said here, oh, sorry, I must have missed your email. And this actually, what's funny is that I had seen her at a hearing, and when I saw her at the hearing, she hadn't answered the question. So I was like, hey, I asked you this question. Do you have any thoughts on this? And then she got all worked up at the hearing, like, oh, God, you're so annoying, kind of a thing, but whatever. Elected officials get annoyed when you ask them questions. But here's what she said. It actually says now, they have a written summary of the piece, and it says at the bottom, correction, Salt Lake County Clerk Lanny Chapman misspoke when saying 90% of her team was female and should be 90, what does it say? Oh, and should be corrected to 90% of the temporary employees that come back year after year are female. Now, like I said, I will dig into this some more because if I am correct, oh, it looks like we have a call. You can put the caller through. I don't know. It says have killed Dia. Is this Dino? You can put the caller through, Mr. Producer.
Oh.
Hi. There you go. Who is this? It's Sylvia.
Oh, hey, Sylvia. How are you?
Fine.
Okay. You want to tell everybody what you're running for and which county? And tell them your full name, too.
Okay. My name is Sylvia Mieta Fisk, and I'm in Davis County running for SEC. And before I get started, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, Goud, but I want to thank you for your special message to me on February 21st. My son, Nathan, loved being with you guys, and he always looked forward to the invitations to come to your house. And thank you for remembering me that day. It was very difficult.
I'm still so sorry about everything. So you have my love.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm ready for SEC. Do you have any questions, or do you want to?
No. Why should delegates vote for you?
Oh. Well, I wrote some notes. The purpose of my wanting to run
is to mostly get people interested and involved in politics and our government. And it's especially been very volatile, it seems. But one thing I noticed when I was running for governor was that people who weren't interested in government at all reached out to me and wanted to get involved. And I love it when people who have never voted start to vote. And my ex-husband was like that. He'd never voted in his life, and then we got married, and now he votes all the time. But the difference from running for office and running to support the party are very different. One, you have the issues that you can expound on, but I ran for state party chair in 2019, and it's very different. You're there to help support the party and the platform. And when Derek Brown won, we had become friends, and he had reached out to me and would ask me to host events. And we had a great time working together. And that's what I want to see. I want people to be encouraged to be involved in the party. And I think that I have a very good talent of bringing people together and getting that unity. But also, with my loving heart, as you know, I'm very strong. And I will call out when I see something that is wrong and needs to be corrected. I'm probably the only candidate that has been sued by establishments for asking inappropriate questions.
I don't think they were inappropriate at all. Go ahead.
So I'm not afraid to call out when something is wrong and I want it fixed. So that's kind of where I stand. When I also want the Hispanic community to get involved in the Republican Party. Having grown up, the culture tends to be Democrat. And when I started studying the platform, I realized that really Hispanic culture is very conservative. And I don't think that they're aware of it. So when Derek Brown had won, I had translated the platform in Spanish, and we had made videos, and we have yet to produce them on any website for the party. So I still have those. I still have the platform in Spanish, and I would love to get the Spanish community to understand and know more about the Republican Party, because they are a big demographic right now in Utah, and especially in Salt Lake City, where it's kind of purple. Yeah. But if they really knew what the platform contained, they would realize that their culture, they're very religious, very God-fearing, and very conservative. And I think they just don't understand. They don't know. They're listening to media. And that's what I want, is to help get the Hispanic and community involved and know more about the Republican Party. And I have a good advantage of doing that. It would be a big asset to our party.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook. It's Sylvia Miera Fisk, and I'm easy to find. Reach out to me. I'm in Davis County. I've been to Bountiful for 30 years, so it's good to be a part of this community. I love Davis County.
Okay, fantastic. Well, good luck on Saturday, and let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Thanks, Goud.
Oh, that was nice. That was fantastic. Those are great points, by the way. I do think, reaching out to the Hispanic community or the Spanish-speaking community is a great idea, because we do have a lot of. I think she's right, and that's actually true across the board with a lot of minority groups. Is that when it comes to their actual culture, they're very conservative, but they've been told, and I say this as someone who's Indian, or of Indian origin, you're told that you're supposed to be a Democrat. But in reality, when you start to dig into it, I think most of us are actually conservatives. You just have to get people to kind of come to understand why that works better for them and reflects better their own cultural values. Okay, Mr. Producer, do we have the next person? My private chat disappeared. Hold up. I think we have another caller coming in. But anyway, that's something for everyone to think about, is really, you know, I've seen it in my own family, kind of that flip from having a lot of Democrats to now all the Indian people, whether born here or born in India, have all flipped and become pretty Trumpy. My mother might be leading the pack in sort of Trumpism. I call her now sometimes, and I'm shocked myself. Like, wow, she's you know, we were talking about the protests this weekend, and my mom told me, she's like, oh, those protests are all fake. They are paid for. I was like, oh my God, she already knows it. I didn't say anything.
Okay,
Mr.
Goud,
Producer.
I got Brian. Here you go. Brian, say hello.
Hey, Goud.
Hey, Brian, how are you doing?
Doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Okay, tell everybody your name, what your full name, what you're running for, and in which county.
Sounds good. My name is Brian Williams. I'm running for State Central Committee in Davis County.
Okay. Why should delegates vote for you?
Well, I have been attending the SEC for the last 4 years. I've only missed one meeting because I was on my honeymoon. But my wife and I actually called in during that too. So, I mean, there's that. But back in 2020, when the pandemic happened, it really opened my eyes, and I wanted to get involved. And since then, I've been trying to be involved in any way that I can to make sure that our government doesn't take advantage of us anymore. And being a part of the Republican Party and seeing the SEC, I've been able to see some pretty corruptive things. And I'm an honest guy. I work in construction, so I'm pretty blunt and straightforward. Crowds aren't my thing, but I feel that I would be the honest one that can make sure that our leaders are in check, and that if they go, for lack of a better term, on the wayside of our bylaws, I can actually call them out on it.
Oh, hey, you're younger, right? How old are you?
I'm 28.
Yeah. Okay. Young family, right? You have young kids?
Oh yeah, I've got 2 beautiful baby girls. Love them.
Yeah. Okay. That's really cool. I like that. Yeah, I'm only mentioning that because like getting some youth on the state central committee and younger families is, I think, actually a positive thing. So if you're elected, what is your top priority?
Top priority. Honestly, I want to try hard to, there's actually a couple of things. So one of them is to make sure our caucus is on the same night as the Democratic Party, so we don't get any of the Democrats in on caucus. And if we do, then I really hope they have a good enough intention to actually learn and to be a part of the Republican Party. The second thing would be to try and reestablish Bylaw 8, which keeps the chair, keeps anyone in check that's part of the Republican Party.
What is Bylaw 8?
So that one is let's say the chair goes off and decides that they want to do something that goes against our bylaws. Bylaw 8 keeps him in check, makes it go, hey, no, you have to adhere to this. And since that was repealed, I saw that. I was there at an SEC meeting where that was repealed, and it was chaos. It was crazy. So that bylaw just really ensures that, hey, you have to do what the body says instead of you feeling like you are a dictator, so to speak.
Oh, okay, interesting. where can people find you?
They can find me. Well, like my home address, find or
No. Like, do you have social media where they can find you, an email address, phone number, whatever you want to give out? I don't want people driving by your house.
Gotcha. So I have Facebook, I have Instagram. Just look for Brian Williams, or on Instagram, Light Soul of God. And it should come up with me holding my baby daughter. And then my phone number is 801-808-7044. If anyone wants to call me and ask me questions, I'm more than willing and happy to.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks for calling in, and good luck on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you, Goud. Thank you so much.
All right. Bylaw 8, I had never heard of that. Like, so interesting. That he's very knowledgeable, because I was on the state central committee for the last 2 years. Like I said, I guess I'm still on it for like a month and a half or whatever. But he does come to every meeting with his wife, and they bring their baby. Their babies are cute, adorable babies. I mean, but like, it's kind of interesting. So they actually bring their children, and nobody has ever complained about it, because I think most people like having children around. It's a really nice thing. And so I find this whole, like, they were doing this proxy voting thing in Congress, where there's this woman, she's actually a Soros plant, but so she wants proxy voting for a special accommodation for herself while she recovers from having a baby. But then it turns out that every chance she gets, she shows up everywhere with a baby. Like, she's on the congressional floor to vote on the rule to get proxy voting with her baby. She's on news stories with her baby, which makes me think she could take a baby to vote, because Congress hardly ever votes. They don't do any work. That's what I don't think people understand. Useless, completely, utterly useless. Trump has been in office, I think, now for 90 days, or almost 90 days. Someone please tell me one thing they've accomplished. I guess they just passed the reconciliation bill in the Senate, but like, there's hardly any information about it. That I just feel like by now you would have pulled in some of these ridiculous federal judges, impeached them. You should be moving, like, you should be in session 24/7. Okay, you just go take naps and then get back to work. You should be, when a judge does something bad, next day, boom, you're coming in, you're testifying, and we're impeaching you. Boasberg, you want us to turn around planes full of illegal aliens to the U.S.? Okay, you know what? You can show up to the House of Representatives the next day, and you can testify, and then we're gonna vote to impeach you. Done. But if you notice, it's like useless. It's full of useless individuals who will get all caught. They'll go on giving you excuses about why they can't get anything done, but they have plenty of time to promote themselves. It's just a very useless body. So, but compare that to like someone local, like Brian and his wife. They do all of these things for the party, and they actually bring their children to do it. And I just think that's such a huge difference. It's really a wonderful thing. And like I said, no one ever complains, because why would someone get mad if there's a child there? That's a wonderful thing. And in fact, if we want to be welcoming to families, as some people want to talk about, that's how you're welcoming, is that you actually don't complain when people have kids around you. And like, for example, like I don't have kids, but when someone has a baby on a flight, and the cries, I don't complain, because I'm always like, you know what? I just feel like, if we want to encourage people to have kids, we want them to feel welcome. The least you could do is not be a nasty person about it when they have issues because the baby's crying and they can't control it. That's life. Like, enjoy it. We got a caller. Okay, put him in. I don't know who this is, but is this the guy that goes by Dino? I believe we have a next caller. I think I know this. No, maybe not. You can put him through, Mr. Producer. Anyway, that's my little piece on children being involved. Get them involved. I hear this a lot too for in-person voting. People will say, well, I can't do it because I'd have to bring my kids. And I always think, well, I don't know, what's the big deal? Like, bring your kids. I don't really have any issue with it. It's kind of cute when they're running around causing chaos. So,
I believe this is Bashana.
Oh, okay, great.
Go ahead, Bashana. Say hello to Goud.
Hi, my name is Brashana Barfus.
Brashana, okay. Well, great to talk to you. So, it's Brashana. Is like the T silent? Like
Yes,
Brashana?
the T silent.
Okay. What? I've never heard that name before. It's very unique.
Thank you. My parents made it up, so you know.
Cool. Okay, it's creative. I like it. Okay, you want to tell people, although you kind of have a name like mine that you don't need your last name, but if you want to tell them your first and last name, what you're running for, and in which county.
Yes, that'd be great. So my name's Brashana Barfus, Britshana, and I'm running for the State Central Committee in Davis County. I previously was the Vice Chair of House District 16, so I was on the Executive Committee of the Davis County Republican Party. And then I had the privilege of being the caucus Vice Chair for all of Davis County, and I absolutely loved it. Believe it or not, it was my first caucus ever, and I ended up running my own school. It was super overwhelming. It was chaos, but I loved every moment of it, and I learned a lot. So I'm really looking forward to caucus next year. I'm running for the State Central Committee because I personally think it was inappropriate that our governor was our Republican nominee when he only got 30% of the delegate vote. Like, that's an insult to everybody that supports the caucus convention system, especially to the delegates that spent all the time and put in all the work to vet the candidates that were running for office. And so I think it's hypocritical for our Republican legislators and our senators and everybody to say we support the caucus convention system, but our Republican nominee was someone who got 30%, if that, compared to, Phil Lyman. He got over 60% of the he got over 67%, and that has never happened before. Another reason, so I want to prevent that from happening again, because even though we're a fairly young state, right, we're the 48th state in the union, and every other time that we've had caucus convention, our nominee has always won the delegates over, right? Another thing I want to bring to the State Central Committee is I want to focus a lot on true conservative principles. What I mean by that is for a state that supports private property rights or physical responsibility, we do fund a lot of social programs, and that's not appropriate to me. I feel like that's more of a Democrat thing, not a Republican thing, and if we can bring that in, I want to. Another thing is I don't appreciate the fact that we want to support our young families and that Utah is under our birth rate to sustain our population. Yet we have all of these developers putting up all of these apartments where they can only rent them. The apartments are the enemy of single family homes, and in my personal responsibility, just the American dream. I do believe that there's a time and a place for apartments and single family homes, but not the rate that we're seeing across the state. And I personally think that if we spent more time building more single family homes, then our housing prices would go down. I am 29, so I am fairly young, like Brian. So it's really cool that we have some people in our age range running for the SCC. I am hoping to get other young people involved and try to because the reason I was able to get involved is because I had a great friend of mine, I actually think it was Jen Gardner, I'll be honest, that she encouraged me to just show up to convention 2 years ago, and I did, and I learned about the process, and then that's how I got elected as Vice Chair of House District 16, and then I showed up to all the executive committee meetings. So as an SEC member, if I get elected, I commit to attending every State Central Committee meeting, and I also am an advocate for bringing those meetings back in person. Another cool thing is we do have a slate in Davis County called the Freedom First Slate, and I encourage everybody to vote for me as well as vote for other people on this slate. I know that's all the information, so I apologize.
Well, that was fantastic. Okay, where can people find you?
So they can find me on Twitter, they can find me on Facebook, they can find me on Instagram, really anywhere. You could just type in my name, I'll be there. Send me a friend request, send me a message. On my Facebook page, I did release my flyer announcing that I'm running for the State Central Committee. So that is public. So anybody could, if they type my name, they'll be able to see my flyer and they'll know it's me, right?
Okay.
I don't know. Do you have any questions for me or?
No, that I have to go to the next call, but good luck on Saturday. Thanks for calling in. That was a great little speech on your part. I loved it. So,
thank you. I hope you have a great night.
You too. Man, she's like my spirit animal. I loved it. She's like boom, 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 boom. High density housing, man. She is on point. Like she's right. There's a time and place. Like I've lived in apartments before, but really families want single family homes. That's been my point throughout time. Like no matter where like young families, new couples, they want a home. They want to be able to have children, have a yard, have dogs, like all this stuff that you need a single family home with a yard. And all this push of shoving everybody into condos and townhouses where they're on top of each other. That's not what people really want. Some people do, like, maybe I should be in a townhouse because I'm like a single guy in a big house in Riverton. It's a little much, but, sorry. We got our next caller.
I have Olivia Dawn.
Okay.
Go ahead, Olivia. Say hello, Goud.
Hello, Goud. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you, Olivia?
Great. Honestly, I've been loving listening to your show. I almost didn't want to call in because, like, yes, talk more about the elections. We need this information out there. I love what he was doing.
I know. It's like so much passion.
I just want to be
Okay, so tell us your name, full name, whatever. Well, actually, your name, it'll show up on the ballot, what you're running for, and in which county.
All right, perfect. My name is Olivia Dawn. HW stands for Walker Williams, but I've been known mostly by Olivia Dawn, my middle name. I'm running for State Central Committee member in Davis County this upcoming Saturday. So if you're in Davis County, please come. 8 a.m. is credentialing in booths, and then 10 a.m. is when the convention starts.
Okay. And why should delegates vote to put you back on the Central Committee? Because this would be a re-election, right?
It will be, yes. So this is my second term as a member of the State Central Committee if I get reelected. However, previous to the last 2 years, I had the privilege of serving as the state party secretary. I have had an abundance of education on how the internal workings of the party move. And I am so passionate about our platform and what it means to be a Republican, which is that, and you talked about this a little bit, I think Sylvia mentioned it, and then you added to it that so many people align with our platform, but they don't even realize it. They don't recognize that the platform planks of the Republican Party are what they believe. They're just being told by the media that the Republican Party is bad, orange man bad, or whatever they're being told this week. And I want so badly to make sure that people are educated on the platform that I have been working for the last 4 years in different leadership positions on the State Central Committee to push that platform. And I have a plan for continuing to do that. I also could talk about so many other things that I want to work on. I have 4 points that are really important to me that I'm going to be pushing for. One of those, a previous caller mentioned Bylaw 8. I can't remember who that was, but someone mentioned Bylaw 8, and you said that you were familiar with that, and I wanted to just
elaborate. That was your husband.
Bylaw 8 was put in after... oh, it might have been.
Go ahead, sorry.
But Bylaw 8 was put in... we're in sync. That's a good thing. But Bylaw 8 was put in for the party bylaws after the party's appeal to the Supreme Court was not heard.
the Supreme Court here is, is presented with 900 cases every year, and they can only take about 20, if that. They normally take about 10. And so they have to pick the most important ones, and they didn't end up picking ours, which was to address the concerns that the party has with the SB 54 law that was passed in 2014 in the state of Utah that allowed for signature gathering to be a method by which someone can get on the ballot as a Republican. It's always been a way to get on the ballot in Utah. You can gather signatures and get on the ballot as an independent at any point, but this law made it so that there was a way to get on the ballot while going around the party processes of the caucus and convention. So we challenged it, and at the 10th Circuit, the three judges that heard it, Judge Newfer was the judge that agreed with the party, while the other two judges did not. And he said that one of the things that the party should do was put a rule in place that would allow for the party to control its membership through certain rules. And he gave some specific guidelines, and the people that were working on that lawsuit then went to help write this bylaw, which is a way to control our membership by requiring specific rules to be followed by anyone who wants to run as a candidate. And it prohibited signature gatherings, and it said that an officer of the party would have to contact the lieutenant governor's office and say, this person is not a member of our party, if they did not adhere to the party rules for how to become a candidate. And that was advice given to us by a 10th District Court judge. And so I have that drafted and ready to put back in place as a way for the Republican Party to be in control of our membership. And so that's one of the many things that I'm going to be putting forward, and that's why I want people to vote for me.
Okay. Where can people find you? This is like social media.
Instagram and Twitter under Livy Dawn.
Okay.
Yep. Instagram and Twitter, Livy Dawn, LIVIEDAWN. You can also give me a call. My phone number is 801-807-8972. That's public anywhere. I'm happy to have these conversations one-on-one. And you can also email me. My email is OD for Olivia Dawn, the word politic, @gmail.com. So feel free to contact me any of those ways. You'll see a little more of who I am, and we can have some conversations.
Okay, fantastic. Good luck on Saturday. Thanks for calling in. Okay. Well, that was great. I think those are all the problem is my producer is going to leave me. So, okay. I think everyone that called in today is someone to vote for. So vote for all of them. That was a fantastic slate of SEC candidates. And I think we only got the Davis County people. So, that is a fantastic slate. I think you'll be served very well by all those people that called in today. God, they got some passion. You can see they're really identifying fantastic issues. That bylaw 8, looking for ways to get around SB 54 or get it repealed. Transparency around better transparency around the election system and the signatures being gathered by candidates. These guys, they know they've got great ideas. I think this is a great slate. So, okay, Mr. Producer, are you there?
I'm here. Shall I bring John in?
Yeah.
And then I'm heading out.
Okay. Well, thanks for your help today.
You're welcome. Great calls.
Okay, so today we're going to do a little bit more on Mountain Accord with John. So there's just a couple of things that I wanted to be able. I brought him back so we could clarify a few things that we talked about before. So John, can you start by giving a quick summary so people understand your involvement with Mountain Accord?
Yes. As I've said before, I worked for 17 years in the governor's office, and 15 of those years I was the principal staff member for something called the Quality Growth Commission, which did some land conservation work, but also had a charge to work with local governments to help them do better planning. And so as a result of that, I took some time during my workday to go to some of these meetings that Mountain Accord was hosting. One day I looked for, I couldn't attend, and I called and asked if they could send me the minutes and the recordings, and I was told that, well, we don't have to do that. We're not required to record them or to adopt minutes because we have some private organizations involved, and this is what Sim Gill had told them. And so there were a group of us then that began following this process of trying to understand why Sim Gill would say that. Did he say that? What was really going on? And how would we make the changes necessary if that was true? So one of the things that happened was that an email was sent to Sim Gill's office, was replied to by his chief deputy, and the chief deputy said, the question was, why did you tell these people they didn't have to follow the Open and Public Meetings Act? The answer was, we never told them that. But 19 days later, they issued an infamous letter that explained their position. And that's the letter that most people point to say, well, they weren't required to follow the Open and Public Meetings Act. Since then, there's been a statement by the state auditor and a lawsuit, both of which determined that they actually were. So that's where we are, as they were subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act. They didn't follow it, which means that most of the stuff, or probably all the stuff that they've done, is fruit of a poison tree, at least in my opinion.
Okay. And then, because people listening are probably like, why should I care about Mountain Accord? Talk about its relationship to the gondola.
Okay, so if you read the gondola, the environmental impact statement that was written by UDOT for the gondola, the purpose and needs statement, which is one of the chapters in there, quotes extensively from Mountain Accord. It uses Mountain Accord as a justification for spending what's probably going to end up being $1 billion by the time you factor in all the operations and maintenance to build a gondola up the canyon. And so if my feeling is, and this is my opinion, but if they've focused, since they seem to have focused a lot on Mountain Accord, they are using what is, in my opinion, a flawed process to justify the gondola. And so that's why we should care, because all of us are going to be having to pay part of the bill for this gondola if it goes through. And that's one of the reasons why we should care about Mountain Accord, because Mountain Accord continues to be a part of what's happening with the Central Wasatch Commission, which was the successor, and it continues to be part of the gondola itself and the purpose and needs statement and the environmental impact statement.
Okay. And then last time you talked about how Zions Bank was involved with Mountain Accord. Can you give a quick summary of that piece of this?
Yeah. So in early 2017, so this is 2 years after the Accord, Zions Bank released something called the Mountain Accord Transparency Report, which was primarily a financial report saying that they'd spent their money appropriately. But it also had in it a statement that mentioned that Sim Gill had said that they were not subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act. But it left out two other pieces of information which were key to anybody who was going to use that report as a way to understand the situation. Those were, one, that the state auditor had issued a statement that was in direct opposition to Sim Gill, indicating that he believed they were subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act. And then also at that point, because you had this problem with the Open and Public Meetings Act, with the county attorney saying one thing and the state auditor saying something else, a lawsuit was filed to resolve that. And that was ultimately resolved in July of 2017 when Judge Laura Scott ruled that, in fact, the state auditor was correct and that they were subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act. I later went to the ombudsman, who is responsible for the getting the records when state or local entities fold, which Mountain Accord did. And I asked them if they had any minutes, and they said no. And do you have any recordings? They said no. So we've done everything we can to demonstrate that there were no minutes kept and approved, and there were no recordings, both of which are required under the Open and Public Meetings Act. And so now we're in this situation. We're in this situation where Mountain Accord is being used to support the gondola. And so this becomes even more important because Zions Bank's reputation was used, I think, to calm people down who might have been concerned about the Open and Public Meetings Act, because the information from John Dougal had started to penetrate into some of the local governments that were being asked to contribute to Mountain Accord and to the new Central Wasatch Commission. And so using Zions Bank's reputation to calm those fears is what it appears that they were trying to do. I don't know that for sure. They may have I suspect would have a different perspective, but that's what it appears to me was happening.
All right, and that transparency report you just talked about, that was done through a contract that Mountain Accord, an already existing contract that Mountain Accord had with Zions Bank, right?
As I understand it, that's correct. Early on, Mountain Accord issued an RFP asking for an organization to keep tabs on their spending and to issue some spending and financial reports on a regular basis, so that they would be able to share those with their contributors, et cetera. So when we asked them where's the contract for this particular product, they indicated that they didn't. They just reused that existing contract, the existing contract that Zions Bank had won, according to the RFP. Now, the interesting thing about that was that once the RFP had been issued and Zions Bank had been awarded, Mountain Accord chose to adopt the proposal that Zions Bank had submitted as their scope of work. So they didn't make any changes to the scope of work to the proposal. They just used the proposal as their scope of work, which is a rather unusual way to create a scope of work, in my opinion. But there you go. So we're in this situation now where Zions Bank has created this problem for itself, and they use their reputation, I believe, to influence people who might have had some concerns about Mountain Accord. Okay.
We have about 4 minutes left. Okay. So I want to talk about if I understand this correctly, the Salt Lake County GOP in 2020 created a video about Zions Bank's involvement with Mountain Accord. Yeah. And so I went and I looked for that video. I can't find it, but I found this statement. I think after they released the video, it looks like Zions Bank threatened to sue them. So they put out this statement that's on X still. Can you talk about that video for the audience?
I will. The state party, in 2020, the county party, which was went to help its candidates, and we did a lot of work as volunteers to try to help them with messaging, building websites, a number of things, and we were very successful at that. But we noticed that Ben McAdams was leading Burgess Owens in Salt Lake County, and the state party didn't seem to be doing anything to promote its candidate. And Scott Anderson, who was then the president of Zions Bank, had come out and indicated that though he was Republican, he was going to support Ben McAdams for Congress. And so the party, and I was not directly involved with this, but I did have a consultant role and advisory role, but they created this video that described what happened with regard to Mountain Accord using its reputation to promote Mountain Accord. And the reason that was important was because Ben McAdams was the county mayor who had actually set up the Mountain Accord process. And so we used the county party used that, I believe, as an effort to limit Ben McAdams' success in Salt Lake County. He ended up winning Salt Lake County, but he won Salt Lake County by a smaller margin than any Democrat had won it in recent times. And that was enough to allow Burgess Owens to win his first race. And of course, he's now in his third term. So I don't know if this video had anything to do with that, but we like to think that it may have assisted Burgess in Salt Lake County. And so as Republicans, we were happy with that.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to be our time for this week on Mountain Accord. So Thanks, John. I will be in touch to see if we want to do more segments.
Yeah, we can come back if you want more.
All right, cool. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, so we got like 5 minutes. Or 6 minutes. I wanted to talk about these protests that happened this weekend. I think it's, I'm just trying to find my notes on this, but first, I already showed you guys a video of how I think most Trump supporters are thinking right now. At least I hope. This is how I feel about it. So, except I'm not. I think I think this guy's eye candy. I am not. But I'm also much older. So
they go into effect today. What do you think about the Trump tariffs?
Let's see if we can play it. Every time I play this, man.
Doesn't affect me.
Why not?
I'm pro-Trump, but don't affect me.
Well, what do you think about it? Tell me your opinion on how he's going about it. What do you think?
Dominance, baby. Greatest country in the world.
They go.
See, and I think that's actually the right attitude to have. This is what Trump voters wanted. For generations, the people in charge have unilaterally lowered our trade tariffs and our non-tariff barriers to allow other countries to export into our markets without requiring them to reciprocate on their side. And so we've had this very uneven system that has basically hollowed out industry in this country over the past 40 or 50 years. And I'll just tell you from a personal perspective, my parents immigrated, I think it's 74. And they ended up in Oklahoma because my dad was doing his master's. And after that, they went to Chicago. Their first jobs in Chicago were actually in factories. And all of those factories are gone. Every single one is gone. And they talk about those in a very positive way. It was a good experience. You're making things. And also you can kind of, if you understand this, I wrote a paper years ago about this idea of the patent box tax regime. I have a background as a tax attorney. And the idea was you give a special tax break for people to produce patented products in the US. And the reason you do that is because most innovation happens based on current products. So people basically innovate off current products. And so if you're not actually making products, you start to struggle with the innovation piece. And JD Vance has actually talked about this, that we've seen as we have exported all our manufacturing, thinking, oh, we're just going to export all this low skill. Let's look at low skill manufacturing. It's not really low skill, but we do that. And then suddenly you see all these other countries that are manufacturing are beginning to innovate more because they're actually making the products. They understand the products better than the people that are just buying them. And so what Trump is doing with tariffs is critical to evening out that playing field, right? And I think a lot of these protesters are coming at this from a very different perspective. And I would see it partly as this way. It's, well, with the protesters, actually, I think there's a lesson to be learned about this, and that is that the left is very motivated. You see that, right? They show up, but a lot of those people that were at that protest this weekend, they believe every single thing. They are a part of every single latest thing that has come out. So COVID, mandatory masking, vaxxing, they're pro-Ukraine. They want to trans all the kids. They want trannies in bathrooms. You can just go down the list. They support every single left-wing thing. However, that it's not aimed at them. It's aimed at making the regular person think that there is this general unpopularity about Trump and his agenda, right? And I think that's the key point is this. It's not 2017 anymore, and it's not working. People see it for what it is. I called my mom this weekend, who voted for Biden in 2020 and now has become actually extremely Trumpy. Pleasantly, a pleasant surprise for me. But she already thinks that they're paid for. I don't think that everyone there gets paid, but they're definitely funded protests. They're organized by people that are paid. But there are these people, they'll show up for whatever they're told to show up for. And we have to figure out as Republicans, what is our answer to that? Now, because I think I heard somebody saying, we'll have to talk about this more maybe next time, but Democrats vote in much higher percentages than Republicans. You heard Mike Carey come and talk about it once on the show, that the northeastern part of Salt Lake County actually has a higher turn-in rate for ballots than the other three quadrants, right, that are more conservative. And I think our conundrum is to understand why our voters vote at lower rates, and then to try to address that, to give them a reason to vote for our candidates. I have a theory about why our voters vote at lower rates. Mainly because I didn't vote for every candidate. I didn't vote for every race this time because there were Republicans who I thought gave me indications, either through conversations or other ways, that they were actually Democrats. And so next time, I'll try to talk about this a little bit more, these protests, what they mean, and how do we as a party address them. And I would love it if people call in to talk about your thoughts on it, because I think we've got to problem solve this together to grow our party, especially in Salt Lake County, and to start winning more races, again, especially in Salt Lake County where we're having real problems. And because this is also beginning to bleed into like Southern Davis County, Northern Utah County, we got to get a handle on this and start to fix the problem. So I thank all of you for listening today. I hope the show was helpful. This has been the Goud Crowd, and I'm your host, Goud. We will see you next Monday. Thanks.